Cost savings, bottom dollar, bottom line. Where do we save the most money for our stockholders, and that's our job, to make a profit. Some people have a wrong idea about manufacturing, I think. They think that our job in manufacturing is to make a product. Not true. Job is to make a profit.
I've been to 2 different companies besides the Mueller stand, and all of them lie to you. It's just a bad place to work. We're so poor till we can't leave and go someplace else and work. And they've just got us. And we want a union down here.
Staff nurses talk about how it's short-staffed at the hospitals, and yet hospital management feels it isn't short-staffed, and that there's a contradiction there. The contradiction is that hospitals are in it for the money. I mean, there's a profit-making scheme there, and if they can squeeze enough work out of the hospital staff and make profits for, board of directors or whoever's making the money off the hospitals, that's what their goal is. I feel that they don't really have a commitment to provide health care to the people of this country, but it's to make money any way they can. And if it takes short staffing the hospital and making the people that work at the hospital work harder, then that's what they're going to do.
The drive for profits keeps nurses' wages down. Starting salaries as low as $12,000 a year are still common.
Doctor gets $50 for 5 minutes, You might not get $50 for 8 hours, I mean, there's a big discrepancy in who's getting paid and who's not getting paid, and nurses need their money too. Most of us have families.
And just because we're women mostly are in the nursing profession, it's not right either to pay women less.
Nurses' wages stand in stark contrast to a booming multi-billion-dollar healthcare industry. From 1979 to 1983, hospital corporation profits shot up 345% at a rate more than 7 times faster than nurses' wages. And as healthcare institutions devise new ways to reduce their costs and make a profit, nurses are finding that their working conditions are getting worse. Today, healthcare is the fastest growing business in America. Huge corporations like Humana, Hospital Corporation of America, and others are making fortunes buying, building, and managing hospitals and nursing homes directly for profit. Take the $4 billion a year Hospital Corporation of America.
Hospital Corporation of America is now the world's largest investor-owned healthcare management company. HCA operates hundreds of hospitals in over 40 states and in 8 foreign countries.
It is finally recognized that healthcare is a business, a very, very big business, a business that has to be reckoned with, a business that has to be thought about and controlled. We intend to continue our growth in the acute care market and the psychiatric marketplace. We intend that growth to be on a coordinated, well-defined, determined basis, on an aggressive marketing program, but we're just not adding beds for the sake of beds. We're adding quality beds, quality projects that will benefit our company.
Many are concerned that what benefits the giant corporations is not in the best interest of patients or healthcare workers.
We're particularly concerned is what we see as a move toward thinking of healthcare much more as a business than it's ever been thought of before. A patient's being seen much more as a dollar sign today rather than as what a patient needs. What we found is for the workforce that this means that workers, especially nurses who have been trained to take care of patients, no longer are able to do their job. So we're seeing that the for-profit hospitals operate with anywhere up to 30% fewer staff for the same number of beds. And this really makes it an intolerable situation. So the move toward, I think, unionization among nurses, among hospital workers overall, is a move to be able to have the workers' voice be heard.
We talk about team nursing and team health care. There's only one member on the team that's making any money, and that's the doctor at the top. It hasn't been shared with the workers, and healthcare administration and healthcare facilities have been making their bucks off the top at the expense of our hands-on patient care.
Nurses are indispensable. Without them, the healthcare industry could not function. This gives nurses enormous potential power to improve their own positions as well as the healthcare system. Nurses are professionals, both because of the education and licensing required and because of their responsibility for human life. Naturally, nurses feel pride in their profession, but the concept of professionalism has also been used against them.
You know, back in my day when I was in nurses training, it was you're a professional, you're alienated from everyone else. You know, you are someone that has a special place on the workforce, you know, above everyone else. But that's not true because you got missed, you got passed up.
Professionalism, to me, what it should mean is doing the best job that you can with the knowledge that you've been equipped with. And to me that has nothing to do with, you know, whether you're in a union or you're not in a union, or, you know, it's just been used kind of as a little carrot that nurses have been following behind for years, you know, like, oh, if I just take a few more steps, if I get one more degree, I'm going to grab that carrot, you know. And we've never gotten the carrot because it's not real.
And Mr. Foley just indicated in his testimony that turnover is not in the company's interest. Yet, Mr. Walker, a few years ago, testified in a proceeding before the National Labor Relations Board. In that proceeding, which did not involve IBP, he was called as an expert witness to discuss turnover in the industry. Let me just briefly read to you from the transcript of that NLRB proceeding. And without belaboring the record, Mr. Walker, isn't it true that IBP, at least in the last 10 to 12 years, has been the most profitable meat packer? Yes. With regard to turnover, since you are obviously experiencing it, does that bother you? Not really. Why not? We found very little correlation between turnover and profitability. An employee leaves for whatever reason. Generally, we're able to hire a replacement employee. And I might add that the way fringe benefits have been negotiated or installed, they favor long-term employees. For instance, insurance, as you know, is very costly. Insurance is not available to new employees until they work there for a period of a year, or in some cases, 6 months. Vacations don't accrue until the second year. There are some economies, frankly, that result from hiring new employees. Would you care to comment on Mr. Walker's statement?
I'd like to comment on it.
Mr. Walker is no longer with the company. Can you identify when that comment was made?
That was in a case called Montford of Colorado before an administrative law judge in the summer of 1984.
That was after he had left the employment of IBP.
Right.
I can't question that. No, I wasn't aware of that. Mr. Walker is no longer with IBP, and I can refute that. Our goal is not to create turnover.
I had my year in the 22nd of December, and it was like the 27th or 28th when I found out that they were going to fire me. So I'd worked 3 days afterwards, So I had like 4 days after my year was in, and they fired me. And on my way out the door, Foreman Mike Westhoff walked me out to the guard shack, which is a normal procedure, I guess, and he told me he was sorry that they had to get rid of me, and he told me to come back in 6 months and he'd be sure to get me a job back.
And they'd rehire you in 6 months?
Yeah, they said they'd rehire me in 6 months.
Do you know why?
Because they thought I was a good worker, I suppose.
But they fired you anyway?
Yep. Well, Westhoff told me that I was a good worker on the way out the door, he said. You know, I wish it didn't have to be this way, but...
¿Cómo? Que cuando vienen los americanos, luego sí los llevan para la casa, los mandan para la casa, y los mexicanos los dejan que trabajen ahí, como quiera.
He says like if somebody gets hurt, they send the American people to, you know, they say they're sick or something and they send them home, and they make the Mexicans go back and work.
When IBP hit was when the Asian population really started. You know, and I don't know, they really don't have a number, but we're talking in Garden City probably 3,000 plus Asians. So, you know, it's they do come in.
But some people, it's not worth it. They can even go up, and a couple of days later, if they report to the IBP, and they probably get fired the next day. I have one guy just walking through my office last week. His hand can't open. It's just locked. It's just locked. I asked him how long it has been like this. He said it has been like this 2-3 years. I asked him, have you ever reported to the IBP? He said, no. Why? Because a lot of people told me if I report to them and they see my hand, I'm going to get fired. And last week, the guy just walked out on the job because he can't handle the job because of his hand.
Shell may have the money, but we have the people, and without the people, they can't make the money. And to stop the apartheid conditions is our main goal, because under them conditions, slave labor is what creates the competitive market on the job front for all of us.
The workers are not unionized. They have to work long hours, little pay, no health benefit, no medical, insured. They're not insured medically, and still working for nothing, and the company is making all of the money.
My impressions, you get a lot of your impressions on how you're brought up. And my father and mother taught me, you know, that everybody was created equal and to love one another. But working people, if we don't help one another, if the whites don't help the blacks and the blacks don't help any other colored person, then the labor movement or the working people, they're not going to survive.
A lot of people are having bumper stickers on their cars. There's billboards, there's pamphlets and leaflets being passed out. Over there, it's like slavery, because they use the people for cheaper wages, and if they were over here, they would be treated fairly. And that's what we want. We want justice, and that's what we think justice would be.
And they certainly need to pay so they can support their children, educate their children, and give them a chance in this life. And I don't think that wages that they're receiving over there, that you'd be able to educate many children.
At this time, I would like to say that this is going on in 16 cities across the United States today. We'll have an international Shell Boycott Day, which will take part in 11 countries. So we do have some things scheduled, and our main objective, like I said, is for Royal Dutch Shell to get out of South Africa and stop the apartheid condition.
A spokesman for Shell declined to be interviewed for this program. We also invited the chairman of an organization of the major U.S. corporations operating in South Africa, a group called the Industry Support Unit, but a spokesman said that he was not giving television interviews. But in their public statements, officials of these multinational corporations have said for years that they oppose the apartheid system under which they operate in South Africa. They say they've told the South African government of their views and that it would not be appropriate to use economic pressure to bring about change. Economic sanctions, they say, will not work. The organizations which represent black South African workers, however, disagree.
Shell will tell the world that they went to South Africa out of goodwill because they wanted to provide jobs and so on. But what you're experiencing is a different thing. These are the very multinationals who at the same time will play one country against another. And they move and take their assets from one country, go and plow them in another country. It's not out of goodwill. It's because they've discovered that the conditions there will be easy for them to make as much profits as possible at the shortest possible time. We believe that sanctions are like almost the last leg in trying to avoid a bloodbath in South Africa. So that's why it's important that everyone, every concerned person, be he in America or whoever he is, should do everything he can to put as much pressure on the South African government as possible. They say that it doesn't work. We know it's working.
The contractor that I work for, well, I work for two different contractors, but they're both with Adams. And they both have places leased or own places where they keep their workers and charge your rent. And it's very high rent for very bad living conditions. Like I live in about a 10 by 10 room with 3 other men. We pay $22.50 a week apiece. That makes $90 for this little roach room. And I was approached by a contractor for food stamps to pay my rent, but I couldn't do that. Okay, but this contractor and other contractors I know, they like for you to owe them money. Some weeks you can't pay your rent. You don't have enough money. You owe some more money. But then, if you get behind and you owe them something, they've got you on their pocket, and you have to work for them. If you don't work for them, you're like a modern-day slave. If you don't work for them, you haven't got a place to stay, and you haven't got a job. You don't want to pick for it. You have to go down the highway. They have a say in my way or the highway. If you don't do it that way, you got to catch the highway. And so it seems that Adams tries to ignore the responsibility to the workers. They blame it all on the contractors. But Adams sets, I understand, sets the wages that we get paid. I've been picking fruit for 25 years, and right now I'm not making over 50 cents or $1 more a day than I did 25 years ago. And the wages, they're not keeping up with the price of living. And I'm living worse now than I did 20. I've never been in this kind of condition in my life, the way I'm trying to live right now. I make $7.50, maybe $10 a day. It usually takes me 6 or 7 hours in the road to make that much money.
What's growing here and what business claims will take the place of the plants that are closing are service jobs, not computers. I mean, there's talk about that, and that's what gets the media attention. But in terms of working class jobs, the talk is about the service sector, which is expanding here. The catch is that the wages are very low, the work is very unstable. Our rule of thumb in the research that we've all been doing is it takes 2 service jobs to make up for a family what one manufacturing job brings in wages and salaries. And it's just not enough to live on. I mean, the bottom line is there are workers and there are big companies and they're at war with one another, and the companies now, after a period of some degree of conciliation, particularly with organized labor in our lifetimes over the last 20, 30 years, that conciliation's breaking down and big companies are on the move. They're on the move very rapidly.
If you're standing where Jesus can, if you serve him, saving in this life, brother, you'll be rewarded over there.
We have very little organized labor.
in South Carolina, the working people at large, the vast majority of them, both state employees and the private industry, are not organized for their own protection. Everybody in South Carolina is organized, as I said many times, the preachers, the doctors, and the lawyers and industry, but the people who need it most, the working people, are not organized. All you have to do is ride around Greenville and Anderson County, and you can see we're flooded with industry that has moved here from Cleveland, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, New York, New England, just all kinds of new industry coming in here, because they can rest assured they will have the cooperation of both government, the Chamber of Commerce, and business people who will assist them in keeping out organized labor.
This is the Bible Belt, and religious groups, although nationally labor unions are endorsed the right of people to work, to organize, but on the local level, the local ministers, the local Chamber of Commerce, and consultant groups, lawyers, are against organizing. Organizing anywhere is always difficult, but it seems more so in the South because of the right-to-work laws.
And after a 3-month organizing campaign in Lumberton, North Carolina, the International Molders and Allied Workers Union won an election at Mueller's Steam Specialty by a 2-to-1 margin. After a failed attempt to keep the shop unorganized, Mueller management is refusing to recognize the union and will not proceed with contract negotiations. This is the first successful organizing drive in Robertson County.
We made history in Robertson County, and I think we're alone right now, but if everything goes smooth and we get worked out, I think other plants are going to fall into line, because the condition is the same thing, low pay. These people right here, myself, they claim the union bought me a car, but my car payment is $191 a month, and if me and my wife weren't working, I couldn't make those payments. We live day to day down here in North Carolina. Most people, laborers, live day to day. They can't put $50, $60 in the bank and look forward to having any future. They have to live, they have to take that money to live off of. They make it every day.
I think if the people hang together, we can have union ties all through the whole county. Robertson County is the worstest county it is. Cheapest county in the world.
I would say the average man in Robertson County, if he had to depend upon maintaining his household and feeding his family on his salary, he would never do it. There's no way.
We're unionized now, so.
But
we're the first manufacturing company in this county, so we don't discuss it.
oh, you're not too pleased with that?
No.
Why aren't you pleased with that?
Because we don't deserve it. We pay the best, we give the most benefits, and we got the share.
Man doing the same job I was doing back in 60-something in New York was making $5.80, $5.60 an hour, and I make $4.95 now, and I've been there 4.5 years.
Why do you think they're moving down here?
To avoid unions, and the people are of a better caliber.
They work harder here?
No, no, but they're trainable.
They really think people down here in the South are dumb. I mean, they have came out and told us that. And working conditions, we manufacture valves, we do machine shop work, and we cut down these iron parts and stuff gets all up your nose and everything. There's poor ventilation and 110-degree temperatures in the summer inside with just a fan, and it's just terrible. And the pay, you can't advance.
Charles Williams, who is 2 years ago was elected Superintendent of Education of South Carolina, was from the same kind of background that I'm from. He was born and reared in a textile village. He never had an opportunity to go to college until after he went into the Army. And then he was elected to the job of Superintendent of Education for the state of South Carolina. 2 months after his election, he made a statement in Spartanburg in a speech that the children in South Carolina had been undereducated by design to provide cheap labor for industry in South Carolina. And no longer than 2 months ago, he made another speech when he was talking about the number of functional illiterates among the adult population. And he stated, and I think it can be verified, that this is also by design so that they can still retain those people in the nominal jobs that they have in industry as cheap labor.
We heard the rumor that several people had told me that some foreman or some person in management had come up to them and said, if we can only keep this union out, we've had our eye on you. You're foreman material, and it's a good possibility. If we can keep the union out, we'll make you a supervisor.
So in the course of the meeting, several people told us this. So I asked how many here today have been offered a supervisor's job. And 17 of the 34 raised their hands. 17 people out of 34 people at a meeting had been offered a supervisor's job that day to try to keep the union out.
We sent out a leaflet with all the names of the people that signed union cards and everything. And the chamber has got a blacklist of all those names. And I seriously think if we were fired, we could not find a job in Robeson County.
In a state like South Carolina and most of the southern states where you have the right to work law, or in regards to whether they're southern or not, if they have the right to work law, they can fire them for any reason or no reason. Our Supreme Court just recently, the state Supreme Court, affirmed that the employer can fire an employee for any reason or no reason. So it is not a right to work law. That's a misnomer. It is a right to fire law.
We recently have acquired a union, and they are not in power at all yet. There is no contract, so they have no say in the operations of the company. We are anticipating, possible problems in the near future. And we hope that we can avoid it, and the people will change their mind before they actually, go into contract with us.
I've been to 2 different companies besides the Mueller Stand, and all of them lie to you. It's just a bad place to work. We're so poor till we can't leave and go someplace else and work. And they've just got us. And we want a union down here.
Papa's gotta go down and join the union. He's got to join it by himself. Ain't nobody here can join it for him. He's gotta go down and join the union by himself.
I remember the first day the secretary came in, she said, "Yo, Elliot, we got something here. It's from Deep Dish Satellite Network." Deep Dish? What's that? I saw the apple pie on the logo, and that looked kind of nice, so we started pulling it down from the satellite. Wow! This is people from all over the country speaking their minds. This is people taking the power of media and putting it back out there to share with the rest of the country. And the fact that there's a network now for people who want to talk politics, who want to think up progressive solutions and share them, that's very powerful.
You need more stuff like this. You need more stuff that's accessible to more people. Otherwise, there's no other way for the real story to get out.
Here's the unabridged explanation of how Deep Dish TV gets to you. It starts with thousands of producers making programs within their communities nationwide. They send their shows to coordinating producers, each in a different region working on a different show. All the edited shows are sent to Deep Dish Central in New York, where we coordinate the network. We take it to an uplink, which sends it to a satellite, which sends its beam back down to this hemisphere in a pattern called a footprint. Cable systems receive the signal in a dish and send it out to their subscribers on a public access channel, through the cable system to your house, to your TV, to your eyes. Deep Dish is a unique network because it isn't driven by profit or religion. We won't try to sell you anything. Public access is a vital component of our First Amendment rights. Stay tuned to Deep Dish and see Fearless TV.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the union makes us strong.
we're standing on the stout shoulders of people who came before us. And the good wages that I enjoy today, the working benefits, are really a result of those people 50, 60, and 70 years ago who struggled, who suffered, who gave so much of their life and time so that we, their children and grandchildren, could have a much better life. But, you know, if you get involved today, you can look in the past and you can appreciate that heritage and try to learn from it. But you can't become overly nostalgic. You can't look back all the time. You have to look to the future. And I've always thought that a union which knows where it came from is a union which knows where it's going.
In 1824, the Pawtucket mill owners decided that they were going to cut the wages of the female weavers who were working on the piece rate, as well as increase the hours worked by all the workers in the mills. And they appeared to think that they could get away with it, but the workers, male and female alike, were unwilling to put up with these changes in their working conditions. And this has to do with the fact that in addition to the good old American spirit of business enterprise that's represented by the mills in Pawtucket, there was a very definite feeling on the part of the workers that there were standards of decency, standards of fair play, standards of upright treatment that were important in a workplace. And it was these standards that the workers acted to defend when they stood up against these changes in pay and working conditions on the part of the mill owners. And it's this tradition that is part of the American labor movement, right from this first textile strike in 1824 right down to the labor movement in the present.
The union's success came after a 2-year struggle with a hostile administration that attempted to thwart the union drive. BU tried the traditional tactics of stalling the election day through complicated legal procedures and by developing an atmosphere of fear and intimidation on campus through their use of a well-known union-busting firm, Modern Management Methods, or 3M. Staff were warned that if the union were voted in, they would have to punch time clocks, they would suffer from a highly regimented office, that District 65 was going bankrupt and only wanted their dues money, that they would have no say in the union, and that once in negotiations they stood to lose even the benefits they already had. Using these tactics, 3M had been responsible for busting the union drives in many of the Boston area hospitals. BU paid 3M over $250,000 in the hopes of a similar success.
Well, before the election, it was a real atmosphere of intimidation around here, I feel. There was a lot of propaganda, I feel, flowing from the administration about certain aspects of the union which they blew out of proportion in order to make people afraid to vote for the union. I feel a lot of it was exaggerated. Some of it was outright lies. They exposed the financial records, and apparently one dubious payment, several $1,000s, turned out to be a transfer of funds to Tom Mooney Hall, which was a union hall. Things like that, making it seem as if the union would appropriate funds from the people's union dues and do whatever they felt like with it without telling the people how they used funds. They made exaggerations about fining people for not coming to meetings, firing people for not paying their dues, which I have never seen. I've just never seen this type of action from the union. I feel that this type of activity would be more appropriately coming from the university administration than from the union. And just about everything that they predicted would happen, negative that is, has not happened.
Because what's happening right now is that bigger companies are getting rid of their older workers right and left. They're replacing them right and left, and everyone is just letting them get away with it. It can't be done in this day and age because women are going to buck him. He wants to put us back 20 years, and it's got to be stopped somewhere.
My name is Zenobia Freeman, and I'm the chairperson for IFA here in Chicago.
that is the Independent Federation of Flight Attendants, and we represent TWA flight attendants only. Our strike began on March the 6th. There were approximately 6,500 flight attendants employed with TWA at that time. The issues that we were facing were 22% wage cut and an additional 20 to 22% in benefits and work rules. We were faced with discrimination as well, in that Carl Icahn demanded greater concessions from the female employees in the flight attendant group than he did from his own management people, as well as from the predominantly male unions on our property. The work rules were quite onerous. We would be working many, many more hours and away from home for longer periods of time for an extremely lower amount of pay. We feel that the proposals that were offered were so ridiculous that Carl Icahn forced us into this strike situation. We have appealed to the EEOC for age and sex discrimination. This workforce is 85% women, and we have over 2,000 women that are over the age of 40. Icahn made the statements to our members of our negotiating team that the flight attendants could afford to give more because we were predominantly female, that we were second paycheck earners, and he even had the audacity to say that flight attendants were not breadwinners.
Somebody really has to put this in perspective. The only reason 5,500 of us are out here walking a picket line is so that ultimately when Carl Icahn sells this airline, instead of making $300 million, he makes $200 million, or instead of making $200 million, he makes $300 million. Now 5,000 people out of work is worth $100 million to one man. I ask you, is that what America is about? It makes no sense to me. These are people that have given their lives to this company. He doesn't understand that. Carl Icahn is basically a one-man operation.
We were rated as the worst carrier by USA Today newspaper for passenger complaint letters, and we were rated as one of the worst carriers for maintenance checks in the industry. So he's taking an airline that had a great reputation and making it a schlock operation. It's really sad that he's allowed to do this.
It's something he has lost business?
Yes, I talked to travel agents, I talked to passengers. I have friends still on the inside who are working, and the passenger complaints are up 100%. Ozark had a wonderful reputation as a carrier. It was well liked by its passengers, and he's now turned that into a fiasco too. By merging, he's gotten rid of a lot of their experienced employees as well. They're out on the street now. And the whole operation, he's gotten rid of so many vice presidents and managers in the top part of the corporation that there is no one who is effective in running the day-to-day operation of TWA. He does not have experience as an airline operator. He only has experience as a corporate raider, come in, green mail, make a quick profit off of the head count of the employees, and then leave. He doesn't know how to operate USX either. You know?
I would like to know, Mr. Icahn, how much money is enough for you? How much power do you want?
My father was in the steel union, and my grandfather was a coal miner in England. And I just believe in unions are a good thing to have. It's just a good thing.
We are not dealing with a mom-and-pop operation in Avamore, Pennsylvania. We are dealing with an $8 billion multinational foreign corporation.
Well, the talks are off in Washington and the pension fund's gone dry. They've picked my welfare card and I can't afford to die. Well, they've repossessed my car, so now it's hitch and hike. But they can't take away my natural strike. Time go to Kentucky to stop the flow of coal.
The union bargains for a contract, and the United Mine Workers signed it with the companies, and they agreed to it, but Canterbury wouldn't. They wanted a concessions contract. And we're not going to be United Mine Workers and work under one contract and the other miners work under another. It's just that simple.
Additional concessions range from safety rights, which water down the protection that we have to leave the mine alive. It includes successorship clauses that protect our jobs if the mine is sold. which in this case is very, very significant because the mine is for sale and has been. They also include elimination of holidays, a freeze on wages, and a bonus plan that is it can be described as suicide in a coal mine.
They asked for 120 concessions. That takes you back 50 years, back into what, 1940s and 1950s, you know? That ain't no good. No safety. The money's all right, but your safety, that's your main problem right there.
Oh, naturally, anytime you're on a strike like this, it's going to affect your family. It's going to affect the whole community. The whole community loses. A small community like this where you haven't got too much industry in it, while you get one of the industries on strike, it's going to affect everybody, regardless of who it is. For my family, the families in the whole community.
Oh, money-wise, a lot. We've had to cut down on stuff. We've been eating the government food they've given us, and that's about it.
No, it's really hard trying to make ends meet and everything, and mostly with the bills. I hate being late with our bills. We never were before this, and it's really rough to try to explain it when they call you on the phone and want to know where their money is, and then they say, you tell them they're on strike, and it's like they don't care.
Older guys, it's not so bad, but boy, these young guys, you have to give them a lot of credit for sticking onto a strike like this long when they have young kids in school. More coming on and the payments that they have. It really shows how they feel about the union.
People in this community are really behind us. A lot of these people are old retired coal miners in this town, and they're really behind us a lot. The people in the stores and all the businesses, they're behind us. They give to us willingly when we go ask them for donations and stuff.
The struggle's there, the solidarity to the people, and the brothers and sisters that come here every day like this when we have a rally, rain or shine, the people come and show you their support. That keeps us strong.
An old tactic in new form that is being used presently by the company attorneys is use of the federal civil RICO statute. RICO stands for Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, and was enacted by Congress to provide the authorities with a little easier way to combat the mob. But now it is being used against individual union members as well as their organization, and it's a throwback to the conspiratorial laws used against unions years ago.
It is not insignificant that the law firm, a democratic law firm, that launched the dirty legal action against you, RICO, is the law firm that had to back away and get rid of a member because he represented South Africa. I tie them together.
Miners in this country, as well as miners in our country, are fighting the same struggle. That is struggle for the improvement of wages, conditions of service, the recognition of human dignity, and so there is parallel between the two.
And what I saw here today is incredible. I mean, people who've been on strike for 3 years with their families and children coming together to boost their own morale. It just comes to show that the union is here to stay.
Oh yeah, speed is power. No, it's power. I said chopper. I'm jealous.
Why do you think that you haven't been able to find a job by now?
Well, I guess one reason is I guess I just feel that I've been very unlucky.
6.3% unemployment in this country at this time. That is approximately 8 million people.
you know, to begin with, there aren't very many companies in town that can really use my skills.
5.6 million people, part-time employed only, part-timers, okay? 1.1 million entry-level people without jobs, and 1.3 million discouraged workers.
I think, to begin with, there just aren't very many companies, in town that need my skills.
6.1% adult male, 6.0% adult female.
And also, just right now, because of the economy and things like that.
Reasons for unemployment.
Dear applicant, dear Ms. Jones, thank you for your letter, and I'm very much impressed by your credentials, your qualifications, and your job experience. But...
Dear Mr. Smith, I was just wondering, I had some questions about our interview, and I was wondering why it went the way it did, and why I felt the way I did when I left. I don't know, when I first walked in, okay, I had some glimmer of hope. I had some hope that maybe this would be the time that I would get a job. But then, after about 5 minutes, I knew, okay, this is another rejection letter.
Dear Ms. Jones, I am very much impressed by your credentials and qualifications.
You don't even remember where those lines are coming from. Look at that person sitting across the desk from you. She's not just a packaged product that needs to be quality tested.
When you're angry or upset, how do you act?
Look at your face. It's like you just look so bored, like you already know everything that I'm going to say before I say it.
What about when you're annoyed, when something really gets under your skin? How do you act then?
Why don't you ask me any questions that have any real relevance to me? Why don't you just stop and think about what you're saying?
Then why haven't you been able to find a job by now?
1.3 million people, discouraged workers, and those are people who are no longer in the statistic here.
I've been out of work for 7 months now.
No longer in the statistic here because they have quit looking for jobs. They couldn't find a job in their field, in their geographical area. They're not even going to job service or anything.
Now, it's obvious that people don't want us to communicate because we as working people have a lot in common. And working people in another part of the country, in this part of the country, we've got to break down the geographical barriers, and we need to assess these companies in a national way and in an international way. And when you're confronted with a company, you better understand that a company is nothing more than bricks, mortar, and machinery. Bricks, mortar, and machinery do not make decisions, people do. And therefore, you assess those people and every entity that comes in that makes that corporation go, and you don't just attack one portion of that corporation, you go after every portion of that corporation. In addition, the political pressures that can be applied on these boards of directors, and you get them from every angle that you need to get them from. Because those people put their pants on the same way we do, one leg at a time, everywhere. And they react to the same fears that they put upon workers. You know, they keep harassing workers and saying, hey, this will happen if you guys allow this, and you know, if it goes down the line, you'll be faced with this, and you'll be faced with this. Turn it around. Hey, guy, you are going to be faced with not only your banker yelling at you, not only the community yelling at you, the politicians yelling at you, but the consumers yelling at you as well, and it's become very effective. And as much pressure as there is upon workers, there's just as much upon these corporation heads, because they make their livelihood selling a bill of goods to people about how they're going to get this, and everything is cost motivated, cost effective. You make it too expensive for them to conduct this war, and I think Carrie's right. They ain't going to want to initiate this thing. Sometimes you get into a fight not because you want to, but because you have to.
We've had to broaden the campaign to seek community support here. Especially when you're talking about healthcare workers, primarily women. These women are women who come to work, either as professionals or non-professionals, to earn a living. These are issues for them that they have to work, and many of them are looking towards the El Cajon Valley Medical Center employees as an example of unity and what they can do if these employees can gain a contract, and they know that they can gain one too. So it's real important here what we do, and it will have a big impact. So therefore, we're seeking support from the community. We're taking the campaign out, broadening it. To date, we have tremendous support from labor in San Diego County. We've had tremendous support from women's organizations, which we will continue to talk to and address the issue of the problems that faces AMI employees in the union. And also talking to the community members of El Cajon themselves.
They are part of a system that takes your dignity and makes you a slave. They are afraid of our organization. They are afraid of the workers arming and protecting themselves, of standing up and saying, yes, my life has meaning and I will defend it any way that I can for myself and family. Here, Alfred, read the alarm and promise me you will come to another meeting.
There's power in a factory, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. But it all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand. There is power in our union. Now the lessons of the past were all learned with workers' blood. The mistakes of the bosses we must pay for. From the cities and the farmlands to trenches full of mud. War has always been the bosses' way, sir. The union forever defending our rights. Down with the black label workers unite. With our brothers and our sisters from many far-off lands. There is power in our union.
Because this unity of the labor movement is not something that's going to be built overnight. And it's going to take throwing away a lot of our misconceptions about who we should fight with. And it's going to take getting rid of those leaders who decided they don't want to take this fight and want to block everybody else that do. And most of all, it's going to take the courage and the courage of those convictions to make people understand that the fight against concessions in this country is the fight for the trade unions in this country. And the fight for the trade unions in this country is the fight for the labor movement of this country. And the fight of the labor movement in this country is the fight for all who are dispossessed. And the fight for all who dispossess in this country is the fight for America. I thank you.
We gave our blood to organize. We fought to have a choice. Now corporate heads and wealthy feds will take away our voice. They're asking for concessions. Give it up or we'll close down. They lock us out and then fly south. Won't take it lying down. Mean to make things over, our flag has been unfurled. From factory to city streets, we mean to change the world. Factory to city streets, we mean to change the world.
Watch Deep Dish Television, community-produced tapes from their hometowns to yours.
Stay tuned for more of Deep Dish.